Alrighty, folks, we are back with the concierge to small business lending, and we're going to change it up a little bit today. We're going to pose his question and ask for his best thoughts, his best ideas, best guesses on the best businesses to buy today with seller financing. Bo, I know you're actively engaged, always looking around. I'm curious, when you look at the market today in August of 2026, and if you had to guess what the best businesses to buy with seller financing are, I'd love to hear your opinions. What do you got?
I think the best businesses to buy, especially if you're maybe don't have tons of money and you're looking to get in the game by leveraging a seller who's probably run the business for a long time, but maybe might not be the best business owner, but it's done a great job with that service-based business or that B2B type of business.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the real hidden gems are businesses that they never grew the way they should have, but they were great technicians, meaning somebody who's trying to sell, their books might not be the cleanest, some sort of home-based or a home service business or B2B business. And the reason I like these businesses is because a lot of times you're structuring seller financing because it can't go traditional SBA financing because maybe they have bad books, maybe they have declining revenue trends. And really what I've uncovered, which I don't know if I've uncovered it, but what I figured out was that I started to look at like the quality of the reviews of the business, right? Because if you know in any given market, if somebody's searching for that type of service, right? So let's just take the towel and grout service business that we own. Because that guy he was a fantastic tradesman, he had extremely good Google reviews. What does that mean? That means 50 organic leads per month. What does that equate to from a dollar perspective? You know, how many of those book into a quote, and then how many quotes do we convert?
Right.
So one of my business partners has another opportunity, which is a non-franchise business, and it's the same kind of thing. They've done a fairly good job of getting lots of good reviews. It's a very simple business to run. And so those to me are the best opportunities because they're already figuring like, look, I just want a little bit down and I'll finance the rest because nobody's going to come in with all cash. So for like this business, I think they want about 150,000. So you're not getting much in regards to like trucks and so forth, right? There might be one beat up truck. What you're really buying is a customer list and really good reviews that are going to transition into organic leads. And over time, you do a good job of making sure you're getting the testimonials, which produces a lot of free organic leads. Because if you're not doing that, what are the other alternatives? Is you're paying Meta or Google to right, and then you're going to have a higher customer acquisition. These are already like free essentially because you know whatever the costs of the business, and then how do you supercharge that existing database list that you have?
Yeah.
And so by adding AI and technology to these types of businesses, it's a great opportunity. So this business that we're looking at right now, I don't know all the details at the moment, but just high levels, you know, ultimately they asked for $80,000 down. They would finance the other 80,000 or 70,000 on a seller finance note. So like when you look at these businesses, what their ask is not what we're going to be paying and structuring on our deal. And then what we do is because a lot of us don't want to be the actual operators of the business is we look for like somebody who is hungry and would make a great operating partner in that business, and they get a big chunk of the equity, or perhaps they would get phantom equity where they build over time. So you're growing the next generation of up and comers, and then you're leveraging in, and then you're not signing a $1 million note with SBA. You're doing seller financing. You're not putting up additional collateral because it's a relatively small deal. And then you're looking at things like unit economics. What is an average ticket of this job, right? Like when they do this service job, let's just say it's $250, $300. How many jobs per day can you do? And then what other service-based businesses can you bolt on to that particular business? So I think it's a tremendous opportunity because there's a ton of boomers that have done a great job, guy in a truck. They've built a good name, but now if you can put in systems and technology and bring in a young, hungry operator or somebody in a second career that looking to get out of the W-2 or is out of the W-2 now wants to own their own business, but maybe doesn't have enough capital. Those are the opportunities we're looking at, and we might have found our second one.
Nice. Let me kind of peel that back a little bit and throw some at you. What I took from your conversation, or you're right, your best guess. Number one, you're going to be looking for a B2B, probably in the service business. Makes total sense to me. Doesn't have brick and mortar, perhaps, right? Buildings, things of that nature. But you also probably need somebody that's been in the game 10 years or longer, right? So they have that history of reviews, right? You're going to want at least some tenure.
Yes.
You're really looking for the craftsman. I think you used that term. I like that one, right? Somebody who's not really a business owner, but just really cared and loved that trade. And hence they always went the extra mile, but they also were limited. They couldn't scale, right? They were the craftsmen. They were the gatekeeper. So their revenue was always kind of capped because you can only sell so many jobs, so many hours. So I love all of that. And that is actually something you could look for. And then I love how you kind of closed with, if you're really going to do this, let's build a portfolio, right? Let's, you already have grout. This is your second deal. Really build on top of this so you can cross-pollinate, right? Because again, you're buying customer lists, customer reviews, but when you have this army or, multiple legs, you can cross-pollinate the customer channels. So there's so much opportunity. I love this idea.
I mean, I think it's kind of thinking like private equity thinks in a way, right?
Yeah,
they would obviously
build the portfolio.
They would never look at a deal like this. But the opportunity for the smaller guys out there is that we do the things that, and over time, because you're doing all these add-ons and bolt-ons, and then you're cross-pollinating your workers. Like, hey, you want some extra hours? Come over to our other side, because they're not very. This particular business is not
think about
skilled.
The salesman, right? The salesman, hey, I don't know. I'm just going to pick on tree trimming. Just pick something, right? They're going to go trim that tree. They're not going to come back to that customer for years, probably. But if they have a Rolodex of, window washing and painting or whatever, they could sell more jobs, right? Be a friend, build a relationship, just that, the other. They could, the easiest person to sell is somebody you already sold.
Yeah. I mean, you look here in Las Vegas, every darn house has a palm tree. And those things are super annoying. I have two in the back of my backyard, and they're like super tall.
Yeah.
And every 3 months they need to be trimmed, or the HOA's on my rear end.
Yeah.
Right. And so you talk about recurring revenue. Tree trimming businesses can grow to monster businesses.
Nice.
Multi-7-figure businesses. Those are really good industries too. The reason I don't necessarily love that is that high general liability insurance, because you got guys climbing
big ass trees,
and you need a lot of capex for the equipment,
ladders,
right? Good tax write-offs, but I like the businesses that you need a van and you need a tech. You need a van and a tech, and then how do you win that game? You have to be good with people, because you have to. Our biggest constraint, I think, on the tile and grout business is the technician who actually wants to get into the shower and clean it and then seal it, right? Like for $22, $23 an hour. So building those people and then building them up and giving them, making them want to stay, that retention is important. So
yeah,
that's why I believe a lot of private equity that are doing the ETA, which is the acquisition through, entrepreneurship through acquisition. They're really smart. They go to Ivy League schools. They're really good with spreadsheets. Like, they can do anything in Excel. They can model anything. But when it comes down to being a people person, they're failing. So we're actually seeing an uptick in defaults in SBA and bigger loans. And the reason, I believe, my thesis is that you can do all the spreadsheets in the world. You can do the fix and flip projection worksheet all you want. But until you actually get out and work with contractors and understand how to bid, that is the missing part. And so it gives people that are savvy, but also understand how to talk and work with blue collar people, a huge competitive advantage. So I love these small acquisitions. I think there's so many of them. And you just think about this. This is another piece. That business broker is like, I'm not going to really make that much money on this sale, because I'd rather go sell that $1 million business and put 80, 100 grand in my pocket or whatever. Right. So they're not getting as much attention. And oftentimes some of them aren't even listed. So there's a huge opportunity for these. And most of the time you're going to structure seller financing. Even on SBA deals, 60% of the deals are having a part of seller financing. So, I mean, it's just a tremendous opportunity, I think, in these small home service or B2B space businesses. And it's really just going out and pounding the pavement, looking for deals, building relationships with brokers, calling these listings. And believe it or not, a lot of these listings, they'll be on these websites, but they never sell. And so like even looking at an archive list of listings, you can probably pick it up, because this business we're looking at, they're kind of in a time crunch because one of the partners moved. So like they have to sell, like they have to sell, or they're going to have to close it down and make no money. So lots of opportunities for active buyers today.
Love it. Love it. Bo, this is so much fun. Again, this is your arena. You're the concierge to small business loans. You talk to people each and every day. If somebody wanted to reach out to you and run an idea by you, what do they do?
Go to onerentalmeeting.com, onerentalmeeting.com, schedule a call. And yesterday I was on a second call with a gentleman from ORAT, and he goes, don't you find it weird that we know everything about you and Zuber? And like, he was asking that question. He's like, by listening to you, I realized I was a lot like you. That's what he said. He's a really smart guy. I'm complimenting myself, I guess. No, but he's a really smart guy. He's done a lot with his life. And he brought that up to me. And I think that's actually valuable, is that he's like, how do you feel about putting yourself out there, like doing these shows? Right. And I said, well, you know what, you do it so much, you don't really think about that. Yeah. But he put it in perspective for me, because like a lot of people know us from doing shows, but we don't know them. And it's nice when we actually get to meet on. So, if you're out there listening and you're like, hey, I've always wanted to talk, and I might not have book a call. I might just not be 100% ready, but I'm leaning towards it. I'm doing stuff and I'm going to do something. So that's we don't mind. And we love talking to people that watch us. And it's nice to know that people are taking their walks, listening to us. And I find that nice that we do that, and people actually it resonates with people and they like the conversations we have. So I end the note there.
Yeah, no, creating content like this, putting yourself out there it's nice to know it's being received and watched. So yeah, it is kind of odd. Every once in a while I'll be out and about having lunch or at a mall or something, and somebody will come by and say, hey, I see you on YouTube. That's still kind of weird every once in a while, but yeah, it's kind of fun. All right, buddy. Have a good week.
All right. Thanks.